officially to the Love Your Life workshop. Jane's first time here?
It is.
Welcome.
Do we number these like we do Gracie's or now? Haven't been doing that.
About the same amount, really.
Yeah, it is close, isn't it?
But, you know, it's getting close to that, you know, with winter, flu season and all that. So,
You have to say.
you know, I think it's important that, do you know the difference between a rectal thermometer and a regular one?
Yes.
The taste.
Yes.
You're out of control. So there we go.
You gotta stop this.
I had.
We're gonna have a vote when
I
you
had
leave
4
today.
sick
We have to have a vote
children.
with the elders.
My husband had the nerve to come in and say, "Oh, I think I got a temperature. Could you take my temperature?" I said, "Sure." And I had that thing sticking in the Vaseline all the time, you know, for the kids. And I never even thought. I didn't do it on. I stuck it in his mouth and oh, that's a stubby. They would call it stubby.
Yeah.
That's
He
something
has
you never bring up in front of them again.
complained about any health issues.
What would you have done if you'd gone,
What in doubt, put it under your arm.
Funny.
Poor guy.
see what you started doing?
At least you clarified that it wasn't on purpose.
No, it wasn't. But I probably should have been a little more.
I know, I knew somebody.
I wondered.
I know, I knew somebody who gives, my husband, that's wax in their tuna fish.
Well, I wanna share some things I've been thinking about and then see if you guys have any response or anything you wanna talk about. But thinking about, just the basic concept of the Love Your Life workshop. And, you know, I had the phrase on the wall, be the person you love. And I follow that up a lot with be the person you most want to be. And so I've been thinking about, I want to kind of delve into that a little bit, just give you a little my thinking about what that encompasses, and then kind of end with a question maybe. And so I was thinking about one of the motivations for the Love Your Life workshop for me is what I call the two maybe rules or guidelines for how do you treat a person. And and that includes ourselves. And so one of those is loving or a person just the way they are. And so I was thinking about the story of Jesus when, you know, he went around and chose all his disciples. You know, he was a rabbi, so he was a teacher, and which is a very common thing in that time. For there would be rabbis, and they would have their little group of followers that they would train. But generally, the rabbis would have a group of young guys that started out maybe at 13 or so. So a young child at 12 or 13 would be deemed worthy of being under the direction of a rabbi. And if you weren't really worthy of that, then you were left to, you know, learn your father's business. And so it's interesting that Jesus, who's not from Jerusalem, you know, so he's not part of that in crowd. In fact, he learned a trade from his father. Hadn't grown up through the ranks of the educated, as far as I knew. So he comes in as a rabbi, and he begins to choose people who were, you know, out there fishing with their fathers, you know, family business. So they were the not good enoughs. As they had grown up, he chose the ones who were not good enough. So, and I think about, here's these guys that we know, some of them anyway, followed John the Baptist. So they had something going on inside of them, something they were looking for. And here Jesus comes and they're fishing, and he says, hey, come be one of mine. And so he kind of surrounded himself with these people who, in a sense, were not good enough. And so I think about that feeling that we probably all have in one way or another time or another is, you know, we probably know what it feels like to be in a situation where we don't feel good enough. We don't feel liked. We don't feel loved. And I think that's such a basic desire of everyone. And maybe even more than feeling loved is feeling liked. You know, know. And so here's Jesus choosing these people, and I look at maybe one of the great responses that he had with people is to make them feel noticed, make them feel loved and feel liked. And so that's the main, you can kind of go down through, when at one point he was up on a mountain with all these people, and he walks down and he runs into a leper. And lepers were not supposed to be around anyone, not supposed to be touched, not supposed to be seen by even their family. Talk about isolated, not feeling. And yet he approached Jesus and basically said, I know you could heal me if you want to. But why would a person say that unless they just really felt unworthy, felt unliked? And Jesus said, of course I want to. And, just story after story of him just being an approachable person. And approachable because I think that when people were around him, they felt liked, just the way they were. And what an interesting, what a great quality, what a great thing that we all desire, but also what a great aspiration of a way to treat other people, that they feel liked in your presence, feel listened to, feel looked at. And when he was going through Samaria, and for us today would maybe be like being in Mexico or being in an Islamic country, and he sits down and he talks to a woman who was shocked that he would speak to her, not because, simply because she felt unworthy. She even felt unliked in her own town. That's why she was probably going out at the middle of the day away from town to get water out of a well. And yet he talks to her, and he asks her for a favor, and she just, which was really a way of giving her dignity. It wasn't a way of putting her down, it was a way of giving her dignity. And she runs back to town. And you think about, what's this message that Jesus had for this woman? She runs back to town, and her message was, here's somebody who knows everything about me. That was what she said. He knows everything about me. Well, they knew everything about her. But he knew everything about her, and yet he treated her with dignity. And I think that was something that was huge to her. So that's one thing. He went around picking Peter and Andrew and James and John. He said, follow me, I'll make you fishers of men. Follow me. And so he chooses a tax collector. He chooses all these people that in society, the wealthy people, the religious leaders would have looked down on. They're not good enough. They weren't good enough to be where I am. So he assembles them. And so that's one thing, to accept and love a person just the way they are. And so to accept and love myself just the way I am. Sometimes that's harder than accepting others. Really accepting and loving myself the way I am. And so now the next rule I have for treating a person or myself is to be inspired to grow into the person that's deep inside of me. To be inspired to grow. So it almost sounds like a contradiction, doesn't it? It's like accepting me the way I am, but to be inspired to grow into something new. And yet, I think that we can misuse that sometimes, that it becomes a conflict. And sometimes I think we do ourselves and children a disservice of thinking, you can be whatever you want to be. And I don't know if that's exactly true. Because I think we're all built totally unique. And yet I think that we can grow, and there's something inside of us that, and it's kind of the thing that we felt throughout our lives where we might feel, there's something better than this. I don't like this situation. There's something better for me. I mean, We may say it different ways, but throughout our lives, we probably have said something like that. This isn't right. And so sometimes we change our situation, or we change our friends, or we change what we're doing. And that can be necessary. But this whole thing of aspiring to be more is not necessarily aspiring to be something that we're not as well. And yet I believe that within each one of us is a uniqueness and an ability to grow into something that is new but is still us. Does that make sense? It's new but it's still us. It's kind of like that line from a Paul Simon song. After changes upon changes, we're more or less the same. And you could take that in a cynical way, or you could also take that in like, we change and grow, but we're still us. So I don't think I'm supposed to grow and be something that I'm not, but grow into something that I am. So when Jesus met Simon, one of these guys who was a fisherman, and just saw him and accepted him, I think made him feel like he was good enough, just the way he was. Then he says, your name's going to be Peter. Your name's Peter. Change his name. Peter means rock. And I think he was tapping into something probably Peter felt like, I'm supposed to be doing something else than just fishing. Nothing wrong with fishing, but he felt I'm supposed to be more. And so if we watch this story for 3.5 years with Jesus, we see this guy trying to be a rock and falling on his face. And yet Jesus is patient with him. At one time he calls him Satan. It's kind of tough. But he loved him. He liked him just the way he was, but he could also inspire him to be this thing, and at the same time give him time to grow into it. And I think that's important as we think about ourselves and think about others. We may feel something inside, like I'm supposed to be doing this, I'm supposed to be more. Why do I keep doing the same dumb thing over and over? Give yourself space, give yourself time, and also, but yet stay inspired. Stay inspired. And so, once again, if you look at a lot of Jesus' stories, they were about growth. They were about growing things. The kingdom of God is like a tree that grows. It's like a plant that grows. It's like all these things, these seeds, and they grow. And so what nurtures this real growth? So that's a thing I like to think about. And I like to think in terms of what inspires us to be this person. So I guess one question I could throw out, or a couple questions, or anything that's just in your mind that you want to talk about is this idea of be the person you most want to be the person you love, embodies both of these things, liking yourself just where you are at this moment. With everything we've ever done in the past, everything we haven't done that we felt we should have done, knowing that we're going to be imperfect in the future, and the future is uncertain in a lot of ways, but yet able to just say, but I like myself, or I'm working on liking myself, or you know what, I don't like myself. Why is that? And then also to say, who's this person I want to be? What's this person? And is this the right person to be, or am I trying to be somebody else? I can tell you when I was younger, I spent too many years trying to be my older brother. And part of that maybe is being a middle child, but part of that is just like, and be other people. Till I realized, that's not me. That's not me. So I think about, I love to be inspired. I love to be inspired. And so what's the point of being inspired? Being inspired to be this person I most want to be. So I'm kind of curious if you want to share anything about this person that you most want to be, or or what inspires you. What are the things that the little things, the big things. I think about the things that inspire me. Sometimes it's just the simplest thing. maybe the way, something somebody says, the way somebody smiles, the way somebody acts. We watched To Kill a Mockingbird last night, and I find that just a tremendously inspiring story, inspiring movie. So, I just want to throw those out there, this kind of tenets of the Love Your Life workshop, to love yourself as you are and to be inspired to grow. It's about growing, you know. So what inspires you? Or,
I think the people on here inspire